If you've just joined us, we are trying to answer the question, is the Tornado V3M and the GAN 13 Maglev worth the hype? This is T's new flagship 3x3 speed cube, which of course famously used by Max Park already to break the North American record. This one that I have at the top, I guess, is the most basic version. So the standard version, which has a magnet adjustment system, a dual adjustment system. Next up, we have the flagship, and the flagship has those two previous things with the third one, which is a magnetic core. And then the third, and I guess the most expensive option is the Pioneer. And that's going to have all the three from the start, along with Maglev technology. So let's unbox all three and see what they're like. So starting with the first one, which is the standard, it's going to be really easy for me to forget which cube is which. So hang on, let's keep it. Let's keep it with its box. I've got a really brilliant system. I'm going to put a big Daily Puzzles sticker on top of the Pioneer, a mini tiny Daily Puzzle sticker on top of the flagship, and the standard's going to have nothing because it's just standard. It's funny that in 2022 we actually have to comment on the box, but the box is nothing to write home about. I mean, it's cool, but who cares about the box? It's the same thing inside all three, I'm pretty sure. So inside the box, you're going to get another box with a beautiful card, setting tools, as well as, of course, a cube bag. I mean, you're paying a little bit for these, so you want accessories. Let's actually get into first turns now and see what it feels like. So here's our standard. That feels really, really good. Hey, do you want to know who's the first person who actually let me try the Tornado V2? It was my amazing friend TNL Cubing. It was Tom himself. I remember I picked him up for some competition, and in the car, when we got there, he was like, hey, you should try this cube. And I honestly thought I was turning a GAN cube, and it was the Tornado. And it was like, why does this feel so much like a GAN cube, even though it's not? And I think maybe that's one thing that people really admired about it. For a fairly budget price, you were getting something that really felt very, very good. That's our standard. This is the flagship. So the difference between these two guys is that this now has core magnets. So I should be able to feel like there's something additional going on the inside. And I can actually. It's definitely heavier because there's now more magnets, but that's just aligning that little bit better and that little bit easier. And this guy, do you see what I mean? It sort of stops there, and it doesn't fully, I don't know, just fully complete the turn. Whereas this guy's far more likely to just, align perfectly. And then finally, this guy has Maglev. Oh man. If you've never tried a Maglev cube before, the difference is, I guess, mostly a lack of friction. You can both almost hear the springs as it turns, and also sort of feel it as you turn it. And with the Maglev, you just can't. It's just a bit smoother. The criticism a lot of people have about the Maglev is that it means that sometimes it's a bit uncontrollable. So let's see if that's the case. I'm gonna try and just give this one hard turn and see how it goes. There you go. So wait, what's that? Yeah, so that was a U3 just with a single turn. That's what I mean. It's just if you turn pretty hard, it goes quick because it just doesn't have that same sort of friction. Anyway, hey, let me give you a little bit more information about the Tornadoes. So here's some stuff that I actually found. With the Pioneer and Flagship, we're now going to have core magnets, which really makes it very similar now to the GAN 12M. I also like the fact that they actually mention that they've improved reverse corner cutting by 17.2%. It is so specific. So forwards corner cutting, you got that. And reverse corner cutting is when it goes back, and oh my gosh. That is really good. I can't prove that it's 17.2%, but that actually does feel pretty amazing. In addition to that, we've also got a few other things that they've said. And so apparently they also now feature 125 different combinations that you can possibly have when you're changing all that tensioning, which I'll show you in a second. On the right is a picture of what's happening internally. And you can see at the very top for the Pioneer version, that's when you've got Maglev and all those core magnets and stuff going on. But one of my favorite things that they've done, they put this on their Instagram account. No need to spend time on setup. Dual adjustment ring pull. No tool assistance. And on one hand, it's okay, whatever, big deal. But I'm going to suggest, I think this is a direct attack on all of the other cube companies, especially the other flagships such as GAN's flagship, because as you will soon see later, that guy needs a lot of, like, you need a tool. You cannot do it like with your fingers or your fingernails. Like, you need help for that. Let's take the cap off. Yeah, there it is. That's so great. Don't know how easy it is for you to see, but I can just like pop that up. I can pop this little bit up over there, and then using that, I can now turn it around. It is really clever. I really like that. I think it's time to actually just do some solves with them. So let's start with this, with the standard. Okay, solve number 1 with the standard. So here we go. Nice end perm to finish that off. I really don't want to say the obvious, but so far the standard is feeling really standard. I take full ownership for my terrible dad joke. And also, in my defense, I am a dad, so I'm allowed to tell jokes like this. Yeah, it's all right. It's certainly, do you see that? Do you see like the just little catching that I'm sort of getting at the very end? It's a magnetic cube. It feels really, really good. But compared to, I'm pretty sure, these guys, you know, GAN cubes that I normally use, it's just not aligning perfectly, you know? Like the fact that the cube can exist like this. Whereas for a lot of the others, it would immediately snap to place if it was like, you know, that close to a line. Let's go on to the next one, which is the flagship. Yeah, you can actually tell it's a little bit heavier than the standard. Not a lot. Here we go. Oh, maybe it's just me and PLLs, but hey, 12 seconds. Look, I know this isn't scientific. It's not enough to like draw a huge conclusion off, but it did actually feel a lot better. So far, first impressions, I'm going to say, if you can, probably don't get the standard. All right, solve number 2 with the flagship. Oops, there was a pretty big pause. That is not what we want. Yikes. It's always the PLLs. Okay, let's try now. The Pioneer. The Pioneer. Is Pioneer a good word for your most expensive cube? Okay, haven't started yet, but I'm going to predict the Pioneer is going to feel quite similar to the flagship because personally, the core magnets are what make a lot more significant difference than having Maglev. My hot take, Maglev is a bit of a luxury. It's like having, I don't know, leather seats in your car. It's going to make it more comfortable, maybe. I don't think it's going to make your car go a lot faster. A better engine, I don't know, better fuel economy. Like, those are the things that will actually count in the long run. And I feel like that's what magnets and core magnets do. I don't know if Maglev makes a really big difference to like the actual running. It just feels nice. That said, let's give this a solve and see how we go. Okay. That was, that could have been a lot better, huh? Ah, pretty tricky scrambles, these. But that's just how it is sometimes. Okay, I feel like I might take back what I just said. The Maglev feels really nice. It actually does feel like it's making me go a little bit quicker. Oh, I don't know. The flagship is still really good as well. Hey, you know what? If not for the fact that there's just a fairly big price difference, I don't know if I'd be deliberating over the 3 this much. This is the standard version. As you can see, it's currently on sale. So it's $25 US if you get this at Daily Puzzles. The standard edition, the flagship version, is $36. And then finally, the Pioneer version is $44. So it's a pretty big step up, right? It's a pretty big step up. I'm going to say, if you can, probably skip the standard. If you can, let's chuck in $11 more to get the flagship version. And I actually think the Pioneer, in this case, may be worth it. Gonna have to do a few more solves to like confirm that, but it's actually feeling like it could be worth it. Before I unbox this, I'm so keen a quick word again from our sponsor, Daily
Here are
Puzzles.
some actual comments I received on my channel from you guys.
I got my very first cube from Daily Puzzles and I do not regret it.
And I live in the UK, which is on the other side of the world. Started cubing last week, found your videos, and straight away ordered the RS3M, and it arrived in 2 days.
Another person said, my order arrived yesterday and I'm very happy with the prices and the cubes. I used the discount code TINGMAN, and they're not the only one. That's because typing TINGMAN at the checkout gives you a sweet 5% off every order. Plus, it supports the channel. So if you want to help us and get yourself some quality cubes, please check out dailypuzzles.com.au. This is the GAN 13 Maglev. For starters, they changed the box. They actually changed the box. Do you remember what the 12 and 11 used to look like? It was this sort of like gray, really cool, shiny thing. They changed the box. And not just that, look at how it opens. I thought like you just push this and it, comes out of something, but like, look. It's magnets. It's magnets. And even this part, it's magnets. The whole thing is magnets. It is crazy. So, box with accessories, the cube, little GAN 13 Maglev credit card because we need these. And I love the fact that the box itself, shows when fully open an exploded view of what is in the GAN 13. Brand new box as well for the GAN 13. And are you ready? It's not, you don't press this button, you don't like squeeze anything on the side, you simply open it because magnets again. Magnets. It's just magnets galore. The whole thing. And there is a good reason for that. It's because this guy, the GAN 13 Maglev, has, are you ready? It's got eight core magnets, 56 magnets in the pieces, like, the corners and all that, 12 magnets in the edges, and then 12 maglev rings, which are magnets as well. So the tool can be found right here in the box, which is actually pretty clever. It means you have to take the box around with you, but I mean, honestly, I would take this box around with me. It's also fairly nondescript, which means it's not, I don't know, going to be too tempting for like people to want to steal it because it just looks like a white box. Just like the Tornado V3M is now made by Max Park, and he's used it to like break records. Guess what? GAN's new flagship, the 13 Maglev, is now the main cube used by Timon Kolasinski. And he is world record material as well, very, very obviously. This guy has a ton of magnets. And one result of that is, let's see if you can tell, it's almost self-turning. All I need to do is give it like maybe 2/3 of a turn and watch. You notice that I'm not like continuing to push it all the way across, like with my index finger. It just moves while my index finger is still here. And that's because not only has it got all these magnets in the corners trying to like attach to the core, it's also got, for the first time, edge magnets that are the opposite polarity to the magnets that are in the core, which means that once that edge passes the middle, it doesn't want to stay aligned like to the 45 degrees. Like it doesn't want to stay there because the edges are, it's like north and north or like south versus south. It's incredible. These corner magnets was something that were introduced in the 11M, in GAN's 11M that came out 2 years ago. Last year's improvement was that they lengthen these magnets so that now there's just basically the magnetic strength, the feel like applies a little bit further. And this year they've added edge magnets as well. And altogether it's supposedly giving us, wait, that's not how you put it back. It's giving us an experience that apparently is like no other. Hey, this is Maglev, and so it might actually do that like over spinny thing too. Let's see if it does. Yeah. This is doing a U4. Oh my goodness. Wait, let's align it. Okay, ready? I think that was a U5. That is both very cool, but also not what I want to see. This is what everyone's been saying. Out of the box, it's just really, really loose. And this is despite the fact that all of the settings currently should be to like medium. There's sort of this like gear with teeth in the back that I can use that tool to adjust. It's currently set to 3 out of like 6, 1 to 6 or like dead center. And that center adjustment as well, which adjusts the distance that the two magnets, the Maglev magnets are to each other. That's also currently set to 3. Corner magnets are also set to 3. And so this thing is currently set, like I said, as middle as it gets when it comes to like tensioning, and magnet strength. Here we go, first hands. That is weird. It's noisy. It's funny because when you turn it on its own, it's not that noisy, but somehow altogether, it's almost like you can hear all the magnets sort of trying to like, I don't know, push and pull, and like, guess what? I brought its old friends. This is the 11M, this is the 12M, and this is the 13. So one really odd thing that happened this year is that the 13 is actually that little bit heavier than the 12, which is odd. They obviously didn't make a big deal out of it. It's like when Apple releases a new iPhone, and if it's light, they'll say it's the lightest iPhone we've ever made. And if it's not lighter, they'll focus on other things and they'll mention nothing about the weight. And I think that's what's going on this year. This guy's a little bit heavier, but they're not trying to make a big deal out of that. And honestly, it's not a big deal either. I think it's heavy by like 5 grams or something. It's not really a big deal. I wonder if like the 12 just maybe is too light. Okay, let's do some solves with the 13. Oh my gosh, that EPIRB was not controllable. Let's try another one. Yeah, this guy definitely is too loose at the moment. It really can do it with some tightening. You can probably see it. EPIRB again. Oh man, you can see for yourself, right? This guy's warping a lot. It's really funny that at like its default middle of the road settings, it's already too loose. So here's the thing. I use the 11 and the 12 on factory settings, and it's totally fine. I actually really like the middle of the road, but the middle of the road, like tensioning, you know, how it comes out of the box is really not. It's really not right. Can I show you what the corner cutting is like right now? So out of the box, corner cutting. It's so funny because like I'm trying to like, you know, misalign it a little bit, but because of its like all the magnets everywhere, it's like resisting. It's like, no, I refuse to be slightly off. Oh my gosh, this thing has a mind of its own. All right, so it's reverse corner cutting. It's not actually, oh, I don't know, it's okay. It's sort of acting up a little bit more than the Tornado did. I mean, the Tornado V3 obviously made improvements to its reverse corner cutting, which is why it said it as part of its like advertising. And this guy, you know, it wasn't said of the GAN. But I mean, GAN cubes are known for really good corner cutting. So, all right, let me really quickly tighten this entire thing and we'll see how we go. These caps feel a lot harder to take off than they were last year. Yeah, last year's caps were way easy to take off. Let's not mix up those center caps. Look at the difference between 3 years, 3 generations. So this is 2020 technology, right? You needed an adjustment tool for that guy as well. This was 2021, and now in 2022, it's just getting more and more packed. It's currently set to 3. How about if we move it to, let's go to 5. Let's go to 5. Am I going to Oceanics? I definitely am going to Oceanics. Click. Click. That's definitely tighter. Look at that. That's just not turning as much as it did before. Okay, let's try corner cutting now. So corner cutting. I mean, that's still, ooh. It's still fairly decent. Reverse corner cutting is not as nice anymore. I don't actually think 5 is right for me. I would definitely go for 4. I'm gonna bring it all back by 1 and just see what it's like. Oh, I don't know. It definitely is a lot more manageable now. So in real life, of course, you'd go back and forth, try out a lot more different combos. That's one good solve. That's how you do a sub 12, ladies and gents. That is how you do a sub 12. I don't like it with its current settings. I'm gonna fix it again, but otherwise there is potential there. Now I'm going to ask, how do they compare to each other in the previous models? So my thoughts there is, like I said before, these are obviously predecessors. Like the 13 is obviously a successor. It's obviously a successor to the 12 and to the 11, and the Tornado V3 is obviously a successor to the V2. The V3 feels like the V2 but slightly improved. The 13 feels like the 12 but slightly improved. And so if you didn't like GAN before, you're not gonna like this now. And I'm gonna say to a non-cuber, I reckon they would say the two cubes feel identical. Like they both have a really nice soft touch to it, strong magnets, fast turning, somewhat uncontrolled turning, like immediately out of the box. I think it ends up becoming just like nitpicking, to sort of see the difference between the two. As someone who has a Tornado V3 and is considering getting GAN 13 in the future, how do they compare performance-wise? Love to hear your thoughts. Like I mentioned before, the fact that these two cubes are used by like the two fastest people on Earth, right? The Tornado being used by Max Park and the GAN being used by Timon Kolosinski, I think it shows that they're both really, really good. I personally find it fascinating that Max went from breaking world records with GAN cubes to breaking world records with Tornadoes, which to me shows me that maybe it's more about the person than it is the cube. Having said that, if I don't get a good time, I'm gonna blame the cube. I'm not gonna say it's me. CuberKit asks, I'd like to hear if they're worth their price more than the previous models. Hey, my initial impression is no. I don't think it's worth the price hike. Also because every time a new cube comes out, the previous ones go down in price, like very, very slightly. But having said that, the GAN 13 is on Daily Puzzles at the moment for $77 US, currently on sale, and another 10% off. That's another $7 off if you use code TingmanLive. Meanwhile, its predecessor, the 12, is $60. Depending on which one you actually get. Let's go Maglev. So we're comparing apples to apples. $63 versus $77, or $72 if you get the matte. If you don't get UV coated. So $72, right, versus $63. That's an increase in 10 to 15%. And so yes, even if it's not fully worth the increase in price, if you're already paying that much, it's like an extra 10%, it's an extra 15%, if you know what I mean. And so yeah, the tricky questions to answer, hey, it really comes down to how much money are you willing to blow. Meanwhile, the GAN 11, you can get that guy for $60. So $60, $63, $72, yeah. But it's definitely worth noting that even the cheapest GAN flagship, the GAN 11M, 2 years old, right? $60, still a lot more expensive than the most expensive Tornado V3 at $44. Which cube do you think will be your main if you had to pick between the two? Well, I already use GAN cube, so if I had to pick between the two, definitely the 14M. But I can see myself really liking the Tornado. If this is all I had, I'd easily and happily main it. It feels great. But the 14 will definitely get my vote. A couple more questions. This person asks, just got a V3, which is really cool. Do you think it'd be worth it to also get the GAN 13? Unless you're not happy with it, I don't think it's worth it. Because yeah, I think they feel quite similar. It's what you're used to. I think it's still going to come down to what you're used to. If you don't have any of these cubes, then sure, get something. If let's say maybe the cube that you have is like several years old, then yeah, maybe jump ahead and just get the latest one. But if you don't, I don't know if it's worth upgrading immediately from last year to this year. Yeah. Final question, GAN 11 versus 12 versus 13. Such a good question. So GAN actually released, very interestingly, this comparison table themselves. The 11 Maglev isn't there, but you can see comparing the first to the third column. The middle one is one that's not out yet. You can see the difference in weight. You can see, but otherwise, most things are actually the same. There isn't actually a lot of improvements. You've got those center magnets, I suppose, but almost everything else is exactly the same. I reckon GAN has more stuff up their sleeve, but you've got to keep stuff for the 14 and the 15, right? Again, it's like all the tech companies, Google and Apple know what improvements they're going to put into their phones, but they can't just put it all into their phone in 1 year. They've got to spread it out. And so the phones, the cubes all end up just being really, really similar. Thanks for joining this live stream, and I will see you around. What do I do with so many cubes? One might say I have almost too many cubes.